Nice. It's good you can make it. We got Matt here too, and I was just saying, I don't know if Bob's gonna be able to make it tonight. He had a prior commitment, but I'm glad to see you here.
Well, I just got back from Gracie Mansion, so I'm glad to be here.
Oh, wow. Sounds like you had a long day.
Well, it's been a long day, yes.
All right, 1 second. All right, so. Kira, I missed that. Are you starting the meeting or you're gonna say, wait a minute?
It's recording. You can go ahead.
Oh,
I
it
just
is
started it.
recording right now? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so the meeting will come to order. Welcome everyone to Public Safety, Bronx Community Board 8 Public Safety Meeting. My name is Ed Green. I'm the chair of the committee. I'm gonna do a quick committee roll call in alphabetical order. Chris Calhoun,
I'm here.
Ingrid DeLeon. Ingrid DeLeon, I see you. I see Ingrid, but she's doesn't hear me. All right, we'll count Ingrid. Bob Kaplan.
Here.
Scott Crompinger is not here. Scott told me he wasn't going to be able to make it tonight. Ted Morris is not here, and Sergio Villaverde is not here. But we do have 4, which is enough for a quorum, which is great. All right. The secretary's draft of the minutes was sent to each of you. Does anybody have any corrections that they feel need to be made or anything? Any comments about the minutes? Nope. Hold on a second. All right. Sorry about that. Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I approve.
We have a second.
Second,
Okay, if there are any abstentions or anybody opposed, let me know right now. I don't hear anyone. I don't see any hands, so the minutes are approved unanimously. And I just want to introduce a guest while at the beginning of this meeting is we have Matt Abrams Gerber here from the Riverdale Y. You want us to say hello, Matt, to the committee?
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Glad to be here. Appreciate getting to be part of it. Thank you.
Matt's going to speak a little bit later. He raised some questions about safety concerns for our area houses of worship, and we're going to speak about that in our new business section of the meeting. So next order of business is, just really quick before I go into the NYPD report. Just for anybody who might be interested, for quality of life complaints, if anybody has any quality of life complaints, call 311 to report the issue, then email Bronx Community Board 8 office with the details, and we'll follow up with the appropriate city agency. Because we get that a lot. What do I do if there's noise or this or that? So call 311 and then email the Bronx Community Board 8 with the details, and we'll follow up. And how to report an abandoned vehicle. This is another quality of life complaint that comes up consistently at this committee. So what people need to do is, again, call 311, report the vehicle, take a photo of the vehicle if you have a camera, your phone, and send the photo and the 311 complaint to bx08@cb.nyc.gov. That's the Bronx Community Board 8 email. So just send the photo and the 311 complaint to our email. And if the vehicle has license plates, the New York NYPD can ticket and eventually tow the vehicle. And if it doesn't have any license plates, then the sanitation can ticket and remove it. So there is something you can do about abandoned vehicles. A lot of people are frustrated with that because they take up parking spots and some of them are eyesores. So that's what we do. With that, we're going to go right to the NYPD report. And do we have Captain Ozuna here from NYPD?
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm here.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? For the CompStat report, we have for the 28-day period, which is slightly up in crime by 13%. But for the week to date, we're actually down 14.3%. So we're doing pretty good when it comes to trying to reduce crime. Our main concerns here are grand larceny autos and our grand larcenies, which we are working on. And this week actually shows an improvement that is actually going down. Any questions? I will be happy to answer.
Okay, I usually get a bunch of complaints that I'm gonna ask you about, but does anybody from the committee have any questions or comments for Captain Ozuna and the 50th precinct? I see Chris Calhoun has his hand up. Chris.
Good evening, Captain. Welcome to the meeting and the committee. My question, and I'm also on the Transportation and Traffic Committee as well, so I'm probably going to bring this up in at both committees, is the situation of parking and blocking fire hydrants all night. And being that this is the Safety Committee, I see this being a prevalent problem throughout CB8. Marble Hill, Kingsbridge, Riverdale, Spuyten Duyvil, people just ignore it. And I know it was said at our full board meeting, you expect more officers to come on later this month. I don't know if this is a traffic division issue, but I'm just putting it out there because I just read an article in the Riverdale Press about a lot of people up at Skyview are concerned about it. The situation exists in the northern sector of this board too. And I just wanted to put it in out here on the floor as well. And Merry Christmas to you, and that's all I have.
Okay, Merry Christmas to you too. Thank you. I'll look into it. I have my special operations lieutenant here. I'll have him and his guy take a look at those hydrants.
Any other questions? I see Mary Ellen Gibbs has her hand up. Mary Ellen?
Well, you can probably hear it in the back of me. It's blasting the music so loud you can't even can't even hear you guys. Big problem in buildings right now where it's like you don't want to be that scary Mary in the building, as I call you, Karen, but it's blasting all night. And somebody in my building, I had the problem really bad, and you guys really helped me out when I had the problem upstairs for me. But there's somebody also in my building where it's up to like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. They're blasting the pot smell, and these people like go to work every day, and I don't know how we can resolve it, but I know it takes time away from like things that are much bigger. And I feel sorry for you guys because your hands are really tied these days, but I myself work in healthcare, and it's like, it's so crazy. Like you can't sleep, and it's getting really out of hand, and people are afraid to like knock on somebody's door to say, can you turn it down, please? Because you never know, what the result of that's going to be. So I don't know where else to take
Are
that.
you calling 311
Yes, people are making reports,
and the police are
311.
responding?
and I tell them, I encourage them to call 311 to keep a paper trail going. And this way, you have something at least on paper to see what's going on. But
Mary
You
Ellen,
need to do that.
she asked you if the police are responding. Are they responding to these?
yes, they are, but it's just they just keep on doing it. I mean, you can hear even behind me. It's like nobody cares anymore if people that are working or whatever and have things to do. It sounds like it's in my living room. You can probably hear it. That's how loud it is. I'm like, oh,
So Captain Ozuna, what does somebody do about that if they have a neighbor who's persistently, just causing a commotion like that? And how do you, it's a tough situation because it's
Yeah.
like, the unwanted guests that won't go away.
You wanna say- go ahead.
Yeah, I can.
that's a good.
This is Lieutenant Haney. I'm the Special Operations Lieutenant for the 50th Precinct. I just want to comment on real quick, the crime report real quick. Like the captain mentioned, grand larcenies and the grand larceny autos are like our bigger drivers of crime. Just in response to that, we're redeploying some of our public safety teams and our NCOs to different tours to kind of try and combat that crime just going forward. And then back to the noise complaints. One of the issues we've been having, and we've done it with a little bit with our special operations units, our NCOs, our public safety teams, is I've retrained them in our oath summons procedures, where they've actually gone to like the training bureau itself back at the police academy for refresher training on it. I want to expand that further into the precinct. So that's the biggest tool that we have to fight that issue is oath summonses to the individuals. And also, I want to increase the amount of officers that we have in the precinct that are sound meter qualified, because that's also, we can increase a much higher civil penalty if we can actually, you know, someone calls 311, we can go into that apartment if the caller lets us and they're not anonymous. We can take a sound meter reading from inside of their apartment, and I'm off the top of my head, I don't remember the exact reading. I have to refresh my memory myself. But if it exceeds a certain threshold, we're allowed to write a much higher penalty oath summons to the individual, and that would hopefully correct the situation. Back to your question of if someone's constantly, you know, you call 311, we respond, they turn the music down, an hour later it comes back. Call us back again, mention it was a previous complaint. Because once we come back, we have other avenues we can employ. We can actually begin to start almost confiscating their equipment and stuff like that if it's a repeat nuisance problem.
Thank you. Officer, I apologize. I didn't get your name. What was your name?
Lieutenant Timothy Haney,
Lieutenant, last name?
Haney, Haney.
Haney. Thank you so much. So you guys do have the sound meter equipment there? Because I was under the impression that you didn't.
We only have a couple officers who are trained in it, because it's not really something that you're trained on in the police academy itself. So we don't have that many officers who are trained on it. I'm trying, ideally, I want to get more of our officers trained on the equipment and get additional ones delivered to the precinct, so we can address this issue in a more concrete fashion, where anything is less subjective, because it increases the amount of penalties that we can write, it increases the number of summonses we can write, so on and so forth.
Thank you. You were at our full board meeting, weren't you?
Yes, yeah.
And that was gold. You when about the 216, yeah, you had the
Oh,
information.
Tijuana Nights or whatever, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was so timely, perfect. Thank you for
Yeah, no
that.
problem.
And okay, so anybody else from the committee have, or anybody else have any questions for Captain Ozuna in the 50th precinct? I don't see any hands up or hear anybody, so I have a few that came into me. So well, first up, this is going back, really, it was kind of, I think it was the eve of our last meeting when there was that mugging underneath the bridge, the Blue Bridge, when the 14s jumped the man. And we didn't really get a chance to address that at last month's meeting. And I was just curious about how the parks are being patrolled in light of this. And has there been any increased police presence in that area? Because, you know, it's getting a little cold, but most of the year I jog like right through there, and it's like, wow, man, you know, 4 people are going to roll up on somebody like that in that area. It is deserted, so it's concerning. Anybody could get caught out there running through there. Is police presence increased, or is anybody looking into that?
We actually had a meeting with the Parks Department. Actually, Van Cortlandt Park has their own police department. So I met with their commissioner, and they do have, and we're gonna start doing more joint operations. They actually have their own officers patrolling the park, and we are their support. So yes.
Are you talking about the PEP officers?
No, the Parks Department.
Oh, okay. I didn't make that distinction, because I know the PEP officers are not allowed to make arrests. They just give out tickets and stuff like that. I don't know if they can detain people for you guys, but so these police can make arrests like that?
They can, and they could hold them for us, and we could do joint operations with them.
Great. Okay, so the next thing that came through, and it's actually 2 of them. I got, you know, the board received 2 complaints from an anonymous citizen. It may be the same, a concerned citizen, sorry, who happens to be anonymous, but they went out of their way to CC the Assemblyman's office, Senator Gustavo Rivera, the city councilman, our board, the Kingsbridge Business District, and it's about 2 businesses that are selling marijuana, which they claim to be selling them illegally. Whether they are or not, I don't know. I think that's up to the New York State Office of Cannabis Management to decide, but they sent these pretty elaborate complaints, and one was about 206 West 231st Street. It's a business called Delicious Delights Juice and Crepes, and that's between Broadway and Godwin Terrace. And the other one was called Pure Leaf Cannabis Dispensary at 5565 Broadway, and that's between 231st Street and Kimberly Place. And the main complaints about them, I mean, they're both in close proximity to each other. So the main complaints were, I mean, it's a lot of complaints because apparently, you know, they're apparently in violation of being within 500 feet of schools, churches, and houses of worship and public library. I don't even know if the public library counts, but yes, I guess it does. So all these, they're within 500 feet apparently of all these businesses. Now, I don't know if that's something that NYPD can even weigh in on, or if that, I really don't know, to be honest, that much about this New York Office of Cannabis Management Enforcement Unit and what role they play and what type of correspondence they have with NYPD. So maybe you can, I don't know if you've heard of either one of these businesses, or maybe you can shed a light on how this works. And if they are operating illegally, whose responsibility is it to shut them down?
We have to, well, first, we cannot enforce marijuana and consumption for personal use. And that consumption for personal use is, I believe, over 2 pounds of marijuana. So even if we walk into an establishment and you might think it's a large amount of marijuana and they could be selling it, if they say that's for personal use and it's under the weight, NYPD cannot do anything about it because there are laws now that protect people that want to smoke or have marijuana for personal use. So we are not allowed to enforce anything that has to do with personal use for marijuana. If you're saying they're selling it, we would have to observe the sales or put CIs there. And it's very hard because if they don't have they know how much marijuana they could have. So if we go and it's not an enormous amount, we cannot do anything.
I think the issue with, they probably realize that too, but I think the issue with this is they're saying it's unlicensed and it's an illegal retail business. So
I will look into it, but it's really tricky when it's now with these new marijuana laws.
yeah, it just seems kind of weird because I mean, I couldn't go down to Broadway and just, you know, take over an abandoned store and start selling guitars if I wanted to, or anything really. So I don't see how it seems like they're just moving in and we're going to sell cannabis here. And I don't know. See, somebody's making the claim that they're unlicensed. Just because somebody's making the claim doesn't make it so. But I was just wondering if any of this came to your attention. Our board is going to continue to monitor this. Like I said, these complaints have also been sent to our assemblyman, our state senator, our city council, and the Kingsbridge bid. So somebody's going to find out what's going on with this business. I wanted to bring it up to make sure you guys are aware that people are complaining about it. The person who's complaining about it or people that are complaining about it are not signing their name to this, but they're going to a lot of trouble. You should see these things. They're very elaborate complaints that have been written with all kinds of, I mean, it looks like a lawyer drew this stuff up. So
Yeah, I'll
just
have
wanted
my
to
crime
bring your
prevention
attention.
officer check them out. She usually goes to all our smoke shops and does surveillance, and she actually goes see what's going on. But I'll mention those 2 locations to her so she could start checking it out.
Great, and we'll follow up also, because that's something that if they're just setting up shop there and it doesn't seem like they're gonna go away anytime soon unless somebody shuts them down if they're operating. We just want to find out if they're operating illegally or not, and if they are, they need to be out. That's it, you know?
Mhm.
So
Can you forward me those complaints if you're allowed to, please?
sure. Lieutenant Haney, right?
Yep.
We'll do that.
Because in regards to your marijuana, the marijuana issues in there, like, I know at one of the meetings that was in person at the precinct, it was brought up. The dispensary that's opening up on Broadway or opened up. I reached out to our legal department. I'm waiting to hear back from them. Because I want like our legal team to brief us on what our enforcement capabilities probably can be. Like you said, I'm going to assume, like the captain mentioned, fairly limited because it does involve marijuana. So once I hear back from legal, that's my next thing. Worst case scenario, we can team up with the cannabis agency and potentially even the sheriff's department because they can enforce consumer affairs violations as well.
Thanks a lot, Lieutenant. Matt Abrams, Gerber, you have your hand up. Is this in regards to this?
Yeah, well, I was thinking that I don't know if Captain Ozuna and Lieutenant Haney will be on later, and some of the pieces that we were going to bring up later, I think, are connected. So I'd love to just ask a question.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Matt Abrams Gerber. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the Riverdale Y. I've had some great conversations with Officer Sala, who's been very attentive, and it's nice to meet you both. One of the things that you know and that we appreciate is that the mayor's office and the NYPD are taking the rise in anti-Semitism very seriously and doing what you can. I also know that the force has been depleted in terms of just numbers for various reasons over the last number of months. And I wanted to just check in with you. I know that you've started up the House of Worship patrolling again, but wondering if there are other updates that you might have about whether there's more increase in officers on the force to be able to cover houses of worship, or other things that you're all able to be doing at this point.
We requested more officers. I thought the borough was gonna send me some people from the Yankee Stadium, since it's over detailed, to cover some of the houses of worship, but we have our community affairs doing directives in all houses of worship now for the holidays. I have to follow up with the borough to see if they send me the extra bodies that I have requested for the houses of worship.
So if I can be,
Go ahead, Bob.
just follow up on that. Is there any way that we locally can be advocates for additional capacity to the 5-0 on these issues? Speaking to whether it's PP1 or the Bronx Command. I know that I'm the clergy liaison directly to Chief Madry. So we do have some connectivity, and certainly connectivity with City Hall as well. So I'm wondering if that would be productive or counterproductive from your point of view.
That would be productive. The more personnel we have, the more people I can deploy, and the more posts I could actually put fixer posts in front of each house of worship if I had enough personnel. So that would be useful.
So Matt, we can talk offline about perhaps a letter from all the houses of worship and Jewish institutions in Riverdale to the chief of the department and others looking to beef up the 5-0 around these issues because of the history and some of the anxieties on behalf of folks because of the doubling of anti-Semitic attacks in the city, and also some of the history that's happened in this area.
I know the bigger ones in Manhattan usually have a fixer car in front, but unfortunately here in the 5-0, we don't have enough personnel to do that. But if we had the resources, we would also have a car just parked there for visibility.
Okay, so
Well, we're happy to, you know, on behalf of these Jewish institutions in the neighborhood, we're happy to partner with you in whatever way would be helpful. So we can follow up and try to get them, you know, get our
Yes,
partners to support the effort. So thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. And also, Bob, you know what I would suggest too is talk to our board chair, Loris Walter, about this too, because Public Safety Committee obviously supports that, but you know, maybe we want to get the board to, you know, kind of help push for that as well.
So I will speak to Laura about it, and I'm also going to speak to the council person about it as well.
Because the more officers, it sounds like, you know, we need them at this point. I hate to put somebody on the spot, but hey, Nick Fazio, welcome. Are you available to talk for a second?
Yeah, I'm available.
Hey, Nick, I don't know if you caught, I let you in the meeting just as we were talking about Nick, for everybody's, Nick is the chair of our Economic Development Committee. And we were just discussing two complaints that I got. I don't know if you should have gotten them, but if you didn't, we got two complaints about two cannabis businesses that may be operating illegally, because the complaints are very elaborate, but they're signed a concerned citizen. Nobody even signed them, and they're made out to a state senator, an assemblyman, city councilman, and they were complaints that were sent to the New York State Office of Cannabis Management. And as we discussed earlier, this is not necessarily a law enforcement issue as far as selling weed is concerned. It's it's a unlicensed retail business issue. Okay, so I don't know if, has any of this come across your committee at all with these two businesses? One's called Pure Leaf Cannabis Dispensary at 5565 Broadway, and the other's Delicious Delights Juice and Crepes at 206 West 231st. Does any of this stuff ring a bell?
I'm aware of the businesses. We are aware of the issue. There's been a lot of confusion about the rollout, and we, to be fair to the committee, we have been asking the borough president's office for more direct guidance. I don't think they've gotten the guidance either. We've contacted the Office of Cannabis Management, or Cannabis Control Board, numerous times. And again, a lot of times the responses are, we will figure this out. One, on a positive note, there is finally a enforcement agency. And Kira does have that contact information. We were getting complaints about the mobile vehicles that were selling cannabis had to be illegal because there were no licenses at that time. And there was nothing we could do about it. We reported it to no avail, but now I have been told that those trucks are being removed. They've been confiscated throughout the city. I think the 50th might be able to confirm that, or the Captain Azuna.
Who's removing them? Is it the enforcement agency of the cannabis cannabis management enforcement unit from New York State? Are they the ones removing them?
As I understood it, yes, but I assumed that it was in conjunction with NYPD because they have to store those vehicles someplace. So I assumed that they would be at their impounds, whether it's in Brooklyn or I believe the other one's on the far west side. But I don't have, I'm speculating on that. And as far as these businesses are concerned, as I understand it, the way the protocol is supposed to look once it's refined is that the community will be able to weigh in one way or another on the packaging of the business, the types of things that they will be selling, so that people can't open up and start selling things carte blanche. At this point, I think the businesses and the law got ahead of the regulation. And I think they're everyone's in the process of sorting it all out.
That makes sense.
But I can also say that just anecdotally, walking around Manhattan, around my business, I must pass 20 different marijuana dispensaries a day, all over the city. I can't imagine that they're legal. The question that I have is, what are the implications of this once they are deemed illegal, how they'll be fined, how that will affect these businesses' leases. So it's a precarious situation, to put it mildly. And does this mean that when their products are confiscated, do these storefronts go out? What are their obligations to their landlords? What culpability do the landlords have if they weren't sure who they were renting to and for what purpose? So those are all things that, it's the whole process the whole situation has created a lot more questions that I think probably should have been thought about beforehand. But we are here at this moment.
Thanks a lot, Nick. Great stuff. You really cleared things up a bit, even though things are still very unclear. You cleared it up a lot for our committee. Thank you. Okay, so another complaint I got was Captain Ozuna. There was a complaint about an abandoned unsecure house at 6041 Fieldston Road. And last I heard that it was, you reached out to Department of Buildings to have them secure the location. Have we heard anything from the Department of Buildings about that matter? Was the location secured?
Not yet, but Lieutenant Haney went personally over to the location and checked out the house.
Yeah, so I did speak to one of the neighbors. He hasn't really seen anybody in there, so I don't think that kids or whatever, not necessarily maybe using it as like a place to hang out. I did reach out to the Department of Buildings. It was after hours. I was waiting for them to follow up with me. I haven't heard back as of today when I came in. I was gonna call them. Basically, I was gonna call them tomorrow morning when I woke up to try and get someone on the phone during business hours and follow up with them about securing the building.
Thank you. So I guess we'll just have to wait for Department of Buildings to secure that, I guess, right?
Yeah, fortunately, there's really not much we can do because it still is private property, so we don't, as a PD, I really can't declare something abandoned or derelict like that. And have our own, like our ESU unit come out and have lock open doors and stuff like that. I would need Department of Buildings to sign off on it.
Oh, so somebody still owns the house. It's just, they just abandoned it, I guess.
Yeah, no, I actually did a lot of work to see if I could just find the owner, find a phone number to call him and, reach out to the owner. The owner, the most recent information I have that the owner is deceased. And I really couldn't follow the trail of, I'm assuming it was kids or something like that. But at that point, I couldn't really dig down deeper onto that part of it.
Okay, thank you. And the last thing I have, this goes back a bit, but well, we had a homicide back on November 21st at 4:37 p.m. on the Major Deegan. And there was the shooting, one gunshot wound to the chest, and the person in the vehicle crashed in the vicinity of Sedgwick and Reservoir Avenue. And I know you guys had an investigation, an open investigation. Do we have any updates on this, or is the investigation still ongoing with that?
The investigation is still ongoing. It happened on the Deegan and the guy ended up crashing on Sedgwick, but it's not from people that live around here. It looked like it was like a drug sale gone wrong on the Deegan and the vehicles took off. But we are still like trying to track who was inside the vehicle.
Okay, wow, that's crazy stuff. All right, if there's no other questions for the 50th precinct, we're going to move on to the FDNY report. Anybody else have any questions for Captain Ozuna and Lieutenant Haney of the 50th precinct? I don't see any hands, and if I didn't before, congratulations, Captain Ozuna. We're very glad to have you. I've worked with Captain, I've worked with O'Toole, Inspector O'Toole, Captain Melendez, and Captain Gervin, and now yourself. So we're very happy to have you, and I wish you the best of luck, and looking forward to working with you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Okay, so we have Greg Lair from FDNY still here. Greg, you still here?
Yes.
There you go, Greg. How are you? At some point, I'm gonna attempt to share this video. We'll see if I can pull it off, but go ahead, do your thing.
All right. So as the statistics for the month of November in Community Board 8 were not dissimilar to October's numbers. 28 structural fires, that's a slight increase of 7.7%. That is slightly less of an increase as a citywide basis or the Bronx in general, which were at about 10%, 12%. But the winter season does tend to tick up the work a bit, alternate heating methods and such. So those are things you should be aware of. Now, you have a video there, which hopefully you're able to share, which addresses the lithium ion battery. It's just one of those things that you have to see to really understand how quickly they take off. With that said, I'd also just like to make mention of, since it is the holiday season, Christmas trees. If you tend to put in your home a cut natural tree, just make sure that it is well watered and that it is actually drinking that water. You have to check it periodically, see that water goes down and refill it periodically. The difference between a cut natural tree that is well watered and the combustibility of one that is not well watered, it expands rapidly, the fire, not unlike the lithium ion battery video, which you'll watch. You'll be able to tell very easily if you grab a tree and you just bend one of its branches, it should be flexible. The moment at which those snap and they're brittle in your hands, that tree has not been watered and you can't recover it at that point. You really should change the tree out. But that's really all I have.
Before I make an attempt to show this video, I'm gonna just shift gears a little bit. and bring something that came to my attention. So I don't know what his title is. He's a retired, Vincent Dunn is a retired firefighter? Greg?
Yeah, he retired, I believe as a deputy chief. He had 42 years of service. He was Midtown Manhattan deputy chief, the division commander when I was a firefighter in Manhattan on the west side. Well respected, prolific author on the collapse of burning buildings, particularly is what he's known for.
Okay, so Vincent Dunn wrote this article, and I mean, to me, this is something else, and this is an issue that this committee is going to. I wanted to bring it up this week just to let our committee know about it, let everybody know about it, and let everybody know that this is something that this committee is going to be focusing on, because it's one of these crossover issues. I think it's more of it's a public safety issue, but it's a traffic and transportation issue. And I know a couple of you here are on the Traffic and Transportation Committee as well, so should have special significance to you. So what Vincent Dunn is writing about is, well, I'll kind of read the highlighted points. Fire and medical emergency life-saving vehicle response is being restricted, delayed, impeded, and obstructed by changes in street design. So the New York City Department of Transportation is obstructing response routes and slowing down response time of fire trucks and ambulances. And this is threatening the lives of people and people working in New York City. So over the past 5 years, the changes in the roads, and we've seen a lot of them. I served on the Traffic and Transportation Committee for the last 4 years. Several people were here as well on that committee. And so we know that the DOT they've made a lot of changes in the last 5 years in the roads and the sidewalks. They're preventing fire and medical emergency vehicles from meeting the National Fire Protection standard. And this is about response time. So it's the criteria for response time. So traffic experts are calling this, what they're doing, calming the roads, but firefighters call it slowing down emergency life-saving responses. So this is a big deal. And if true, and it's, this guy seems to have a lot of credibility, and I see a hand up, but Greg, do you have any response to that at all? Have you heard about this issue at all, or do you?
It is certainly something we talk about on a regular basis, but more anecdotal, just I don't think anyone is unfamiliar with the reduction in actual lanes of vehicle traffic and the adding of bicycle pathways. Each time you add that bicycle path, is that road wide enough to accommodate it, or have you just simply reduced 1 to 2 lanes in order to accommodate that bicycle traffic? As well as, after COVID, the number of people that were in their cars that didn't want to be on public transportation, increased traffic, et cetera. You add all of those things. And I would say also a number of curbs that have been added that make it very difficult to make certain turns for trucks of a certain size. Those things are added in by the DOT in order to perhaps make the bicycle traffic safer. And they have other plans, but this is very much talked about. We do talk with the DOT periodically. They'll reach out to us for a consultation on a bike lane they're adding, and we have the conversation. But I would say we speak our concerns, but I don't know that we've actually held one up yet.
Well, that would be my real question. Is, you said that you speak about it a lot. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to quantify, but is that do you feel that's like the prevailing sentiment of firefighters, that this stuff is causing you problems? Is that rather than, do you think it's increasing, decreasing response times rather?
I don't know if it's appropriate for me to just sort of like throw it out without having hard statistics to give you, but just anecdotally, like, would I say that in the last 10 to 15 years, has it gotten more difficult to navigate a fire truck through many neighborhoods in the city? 100% true.
Fair enough. Mary Ellen, you got a question for Greg Lear? FDNY?
Well, there's actually two, I have a couple of things. One, you mentioned the curb designs. That's one of
Yes.
the things that came up in our meetings, because Palisade and Capoc Street, they redesigned those two corners that come way out and caused major flooding to 27 Palisade Avenue. I can't even imagine making that big turn with your fire truck onto the Palisade.
Right.
My mom lives in that building, 2621, so that's a very big concern. It's funny that you said that, because I really argued with DOT on those meetings, on the TNT meetings.
Yeah, you'll notice they expand out the curb and they make a big round on them often.
Looks like two tonsils.
Yeah, it does make certain areas where we were able to navigate before far more difficult.
Right. And the other thing is, we've talked about my building, 3220 Netherland Avenue. I met you in the street. Don't know if you remember. There's this big construction thing from 3220 Arlington Avenue that's on the back. It faces us now on Netherland Avenue. And
Okay.
it extends really out into the street with all that construction stuff, with a dumpster in it. And it's very dangerous, because if you guys are trying to get by and there's somebody dropping off, an elderly parent or something, because you can only come into one spot into my building because we have the scaffolding up, which I learned is called a sidewalk, whatever it's called.
Sidewalk shed, yeah.
And if, God forbid, you guys have to get through fast, I mean, that's gonna be a disaster, or an ambulance, and I brought this up at TNT, and I think it's a really big issue, the way that thing sticks out. I mean, it's amazingly hazardous.
Yeah,
And then-
you know what, I'll do a drive-by, I'll take a look at it.
Yeah. And the only thing I wanted to follow up with, I had asked a question and previously about our roof. Like, it used to be alarmed. And I even called it, I think you guys thought I was joking around with you on 4th of July. This guy in our building every year lights these major fireworks off our roof. You would think we have Macy's on top of our roof. It's that big. And the whole roof shakes, and there's gonna be a major fire one day. And this guy, and the person who actually does it does drugs. So I mean, you have like a heroin addict, whatever he is, shooting off these things to entertain the building, and it's a problem. Before, there was an alarm on there and you couldn't even get onto the roof. And I don't think it's alarmed anymore. And we've had, maybe you remember, but you don't, you see me in my healthcare uniform. Remember you to the,
So with the firework, in the last 5 years or so, the fireworks have grown exponentially as well, the use of them. And you know, it's not just simply bottle rockets and firecrackers anymore.
no,
You
it's
have
big
like
ones
small
off the top
mortar.
of our roof.
They have mortar design to them, yeah. So they're actual, you know, mortar type, which will do actual visual display in the air. And they're not expensive. They're easy to attain, and they're being used everywhere.
It kind of feels like it's gonna be blow a hole in our roof. That's how bad
I
it is.
completely understand. Yeah.
And I think you guys thought I was joking when I called the house, because my friend is McMaster, and I was like, I'm telling you, they're gonna blow a hole in our roof. And the guy was like giggling. I said, I'm really not playing. He go, are you joking? I said, no, I'm not. I'm afraid the house is gonna go on fire. And we used to have alarms up there. Is there supposed to be an alarm on that roof or locked?
I
Because
don't
they're
know
hanging out on
necessarily
that roof.
I don't know that there's an alarm required off the top of my head. It just can't be. So that push alarm typically was used. It allows you, you're not allowed to lock the door where it's unopenable.
Right.
So typically, rather than some sort of slide bolt lock, which would be illegal, they put those things so that they know if someone has actually gone onto the roof, but it is not an actual locked roof. So you
Right.
can push it, but it causes an alarm. But it's not uncommon for me to see unalarmed doors to the roof as well. You know, that's something within your building as to whether or not you want people on the roof. I don't know
Yeah,
that it's
'cause especially
necessarily.
lighting fireworks like that. I'm like, oh, every year it gets scarier and scarier.
All right, I gotta move on because I want to make sure
Okay,
we have
thank you so
everybody here
much.
to have our quorum when we vote. I know some people gotta go, so I'm gonna make an attempt to show this video, and hopefully this doesn't go horribly wrong, so let me see if I can do this. So hold on a second. Oh boy, here we go. Let's see. I don't know if this is working. Let's see.
Maybe you can have him co-host if he knows how to do it, he can show it.
He says he doesn't. Greg, do you know how to show the video? Nick, do you know how to share?
Co-host.
Nick, do you share screen share?
Yeah, there should be,
I just got a brand new computer and it's like, so it's, yeah.
so if you go to the bottom of your Zoom screen, there should be a green button.
Yep, pressed it. I pressed it. And then it gives me a bunch of weird, it says desktop one. I thought it was going to be that one, but is there an option that I should know about? Another one says whiteboard. Another one says, I think it's from my iPhone.
So the only option I could suggest, if somebody else has that presentation, you can make them a co-host and then they can share their screen. I mean, if you want to email it to me, I can share my screen and show it.
I'll do that. I'll do that.
Shoot me an email, I'll download it through the email and then I'll share it.
Oh, hold on. Maybe this will work. No. All right. Let me see if I can do that real quick.
Yep.
Hold on a second, guys. I'm just gonna send Nick this really quickly if I can. You know, we might have to do this another time. And it's literally like a minute. Hold on. All right, you know what? Let's scrap it. I'll get my act together for next time so we could do this. But so I'm not going to share it right now because it's a little complex for me. I just got a new computer and everything's strange. But so the video was basically overheating lithium ion batteries and how quickly. I mean, it's a 2-minute video and it's really like just a minute that shows just how quickly, and I'll try to set that up for the next time and get that right. I try to do this on the fly. I've never done this before with sharing the screen with this. But that's one of our main issues that we're having with the e-bikes and the scooters are just basically exploding, and they explode very quickly and the fires rage out of control very quickly. I don't know, Greg, do you want to just say anything on this? Because this is going to be a constant, we're going to be bringing this up constantly because these things seem to be increasing. And, I just read something else that, there's been more of these type of fires in the last year than there has been in the last 3 years combined or something like that.
Their usage has obviously expanded rapidly throughout the city. So, they're basically in every apartment. So whether or not they're the initiator of the fire or they just wind up part of the combustible load at some point and then adding to it, they're in almost every building that we go to a fire in now because they're everywhere. But I do think the video is worth a watch for anyone that hasn't seen these things before, just so you're aware of it. And then that the Underwriters Laboratories does a mock-up of a small house with they purposely overcharge a battery in order to initiate its thermal runaway. And you watch how quickly that fire spreads. The amount of combustibles that you surround it by will affect that as well. If you have it in an area where there aren't as many combustibles around it, you'll reduce the damage, you'll reduce the spread of that fire. But even at that, the toxic gases and flammable gases that come out of it is worth a look.
All right, I'm going to make one last attempt just to send this to Nick. Hold on. I'm going to forward this to Nick if I can. Nick, I think I just sent you the link, if it's there.
And as you had mentioned, I mean, obviously buildings are looking on their own at trying to ban these devices. Very difficult to do, within a person's private residence, but it is something that's going to be an ongoing conversation.
Ed, if you can make me co-host, I can share it. I got.
Did
the
you get it?
I did get it.
Okay, so let me see. I'll make you co-host if I can.
And then if you're able to manage that video, you can skip the first 50 seconds of that video. About the 50-second mark is probably the most, you'll shrink the need to watch the rest, and it's the most relevant part.
All right, Nick, you are co-host. God, look at that. Nick does it in 2 seconds. Oh, did I give you the wrong one? No,
Yeah, that doesn't look familiar.
that is, hold on. You know what? Go back, Nick. I think I sent you the one I was talking about for Vince Dunn.
Vince
No,
Dunn.
I sent you the wrong one, Nick. Sorry.
There's an attachment. That's not it. No, that's lockdown.
That's something else. You know what? Let me send it back to me, and I'll see if I can send you the right one.
Okay.
That's the other one we were just discussing. It's what happens when you get so many emails.
I have nightmares tonight about the battery because there's so many of those bikes in my building.
All right, give me 1 second. I thought that was it. Yikes. You know, for the life of me, I can't even find the thing now. You know what? Let's just move on. I'll have
Well,
to.
maybe Gregory can send it to Nick.
That's all right. I'll just,
No.
we'll just have to do it next time. It's I can't be searching through a ton of emails, which I'm already doing. All right, we're gonna do it next time. Sorry about that, guys. All right, so SLAs. We're on to state liquor license. Is there anybody here from Yucca Latin Bistro?
Yes, how you doing? Good evening. My name is Miguel Acosta. I'm here on behalf of Eddie Arnaud, principal at Yucca Latin Bistro. How
Hey,
you guys doing
Miguel.
this evening? Happy holidays to all.
Thanks for being patient. We had a little technical difficulties due to my.
Not a problem. I completely understand.
Okay, so you're a renewal, Yucca Latin Bistro at 5684 Riverdale Avenue. You're renewing full liquor license. And how's the business?
Business is smooth, right now it is up and down, based on what my client tells me. There's weeks that are good, there's weeks that are slow, so basically just trying to stay at flow, hoping everything in 2023 might take a big change, to make these restaurants, a little bit more solid when it comes to operations and finances.
And who's Eddie Arnaud again?
He's the principal owner. His wife Elizabeth operates the business with him, and then Manuel Espinal is the other owner.
And you're the representative, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, Captain Ozuna, you still with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, any issues with 5684 Riverdale Avenue, this business or this location?
No, we haven't had any issues at that location.
Okay, great. So is anybody on the committee have any questions for Mr. Acosta? I don't hear anybody. I don't see any hands up. With that, well, I'll just say, is there anybody who wants to abstain or disapproves of this application? I don't see anybody. I don't hear anybody. So this application passes unanimously, the Public Safety Committee, and will go before our full board at our next board meeting for approval. So it passes this committee. Thank you, Mr. Acosta, for coming out.
Thank you, thank you. I think I'm staying for the next one, Azili Catering Hall.
Okay, we got Azili, let's see. Azili would be a new application, so let me.
Yeah, that is correct.
I'm just going through the renewals first, and then we'll get to Azili, okay?
Not a problem. Take your time.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we have Bronx Post 95 War Veterans at 3960 Orloff Avenue. Is there anybody here representing that establishment? Nobody here from Bronx Post. Okay. So we'll table that. Is there anyone here from TCR Tennis Club of Riverdale at 2600 Netherland Avenue? Nobody here from, I don't see anybody actually. I'll call them out anyway. And the other would be Jake Steakhouse at 6031 Broadway.
Sorry, I'm here.
Oh, hi.
Hi, I'm Sandra Clipstein from TCR, the Club of
You are.
Riverdale.
Thank you, thank you. 2600 Riverdale Avenue. So you're applying to renew your full liquor license. Any issues over there?
No issues, all is well.
That's
We're
the
about to
century.
celebrate 30 years.
Congratulations. That's a century, correct?
Yes.
Well, I have to ask, but Captain Ozuna, any issues at the Century over there for this business or no, anything?
No, we don't have no history, nothing with that business. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, so anybody from the committee have any questions? So you're Sandra, what's your relation? You're the owner?
Well, no, I'm actually the daughter of,
Jeffrey.
it's a family business, so yeah.
Okay, good. Jeffrey, right?
Yep.
Okay. So anybody from the committee have any questions for Sandra, or that's it? No, I don't see any hands. So I'm gonna vote to approve this. Is anybody from the committee abstaining or vote to disapprove this application? I don't hear anyone. I don't see any hands. So this application is approved unanimously by the Public Safety Committee. It will go before our full board at our next board meeting for approval. Thank you, Sandra, for coming out.
Oh, thank you for your time. Great work, everyone. Have
Thank
a
you.
good one.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Enjoy the holidays.
You too.
Okay, Jake's Steakhouse. Do we have anybody from Jake's? I don't see anybody from Jake's. So we'll table Jake's for next. So I know we have Miguel again for, we have a new application for
Azili,
Azili. I'm just trying to, for full liquor license, right? Okay, so, and you're representing, yeah, I see you're on the application. You're representing Mr. Grulan?
Miss Gruyan,
Miss Gruyan.
Yes.
Okay.
So we visited this application and this request last year. Unfortunately, finances and everything haven't been too well. So now Ms. Gruyan was able to afford submitting the application, but the 270 days allowed by the Liquor Authority with the community board notice has expired. So we're re-notifying, which is the proper requirements in order for us to resubmit this application to the Liquor Authority.
I'm glad you said that because that was my next question, because I actually remember you guys and I wrote a note to myself. It's like, how are they new? I remember you guys, but I
yeah,
get
it's just requirements, we got to
Yeah.
follow the steps correctly.
right. And I also see you sent the board signed 2 a.m. closing agreement.
Yeah, basically, she has been operating, doing some small events, for private institutions and certain meetings and kids parties and things like that. So basically she, even though she's offering the space and the food, in reality, she would like to increase some sort of revenue because, you know, her rent is high. She explained to me that she hasn't had any incidents with previous events that she has catered. So therefore, she's trying to get a catering license. So because it's a catering license, she would not be allowed to promote the establishment to the open public. So I recommended that this will be the proper license for her to be able to operate a catering establishment where
Okay.
you don't get it, you know, outsiders coming in and basically create any problems in your establishment that could create a nuisance to the neighborhood.
Okay, do you have any established hours for this business yet?
Basically, it depends on the rental agreements. So the you know, you may have like a breakfast function, you may have like a lunch, or you know, something on Saturday where you may have 2 or 3 events, you know, 2 or 3 hours apart from each other. So no later than 2 o'clock, but it could be, you know, the hours may vary depending on the request of the person who's renting the space.
Okay, great. Does anybody from the committee have any questions for Miguel Acosta of Azili Luxury Hall Corp. at 5540 Broadway? I don't see any hands. I don't hear anybody. So is there anybody who wants to abstain or disapproves of approving this application? I don't hear anyone. I don't see any hands. So this application passes the Public Safety Committee unanimously and will go before our full board at our next board meeting. Thank you, Mr. Acosta, for coming out, and
Thank you guys, and Merry
holiday.
Christmas.
Likewise, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, so I see that Matt has left us, and we had him on the agenda, but we basically went over Bob, Bob, am I correct that we went over everything that's necessary that he was concerned about?
Yep. He was concerned, the house of worship issue is a big issue. We're seeing, as I mentioned before, this humongous rise in hate crimes and anti-Semitic hate crimes in specific. Just as a side note, my agency also runs the Interfaith Security Council, and we'll be doing a training on the various different grants that are available on January 4th. So we'll send this out to the committee if anybody wants to attend.
Okay, great. It's funny because I'm going out of my mind. I'm still looking for this damn email for the fire safety video that I can't find, but I guess I'll have to give that up. All right, we'll get back to that next time, I guess. So the last thing I wanted to mention before I call this meeting is first of all, is there anybody in the committee who has any new business that they want to bring up? I don't see anybody. So I do want to bring up one thing, and I don't really want to get into it too much now. I just kind of wanted to plant the seeds for, this is something going into the new year that we're definitely, another thing we're definitely is going to be on our radar. So I know I see Lieutenant Haney is still there. Maybe Captain Ozuna is as well, but just recently, Mayor Adams, he's making a lot of statements about basically removing the homeless from the streets and from the subways and putting them into mental health facilities. So, one of the things I wanted to address at some point this year was mental health and what its relation was to crime. So, Mayor Adams goes out and he makes this declaration and Kathy Hochul apparently is down with this too, that they want to, they're going to expand the qualifying criteria for involuntary commitment under Kendra's law. So, and the criteria is that those who are unable to care for themselves can be mandated into treatment. And I think the difference the distinction I make between the previous way people did things, or the law did things, is somebody had to have been determined dangerous to themselves and those around them. It seems the criteria has been expanded to simply being unable to take care of themselves, which, you know, to me is a little bit of a slippery slope, but this is why I want to have this conversation. So I don't know, for the 50th precinct, have you heard anything about this yet? That have your officers given any directives from the mayor's office about basically removing the homeless from the street or from the subways and mandating them into treatment, mental health care treatment?
It's Lieutenant Haney. We really can't force somebody into any kind of treatment. We have guidelines and stuff like that that we have to abide by. Generally, if someone's of sound mind and body, we really can't force them to do much. Guidance from the mayor's office, nothing is really filtered down. We do have our crisis intervention teams, and we do, I know the transit officers mostly do go out into the subway systems and stuff like that, trying to offer any homeless people shelter and things of that nature. But the issue is if they refuse, again, if they're of sound mind and body, excuse me, there's really not much we can do.
Okay, because I mean, that's what I always thought, but that kind of flies in the face of what the mayor and even the governor is saying, that they have expanded the criteria that, so I just was curious if the NYPD had received any type of directive directly from the mayor or the governor about this, because they're going out there and making these statements that they plan on doing this stuff. So I guess the answer is no, you haven't.
Usually when their statements come out, it usually takes a week or two for a procedure and a policy on our end to get put in place into what we can and actually can't do. So it's usually probably just what we're waiting for on our end is something to actually come down. You know, if we have to force them into a shelter or some kind of treatment, like what is our procedure, who's going to handle it, so on and so forth, who has to make that call. Our current procedure for anyone that can't mentally care for themselves and so on and so forth is guided by EMS. Like we can recommend it to EMS, but they are the ultimate decider for that.
Okay, so I'm sure you'll keep us, and I'll definitely keep bringing that question up because that's a big one. And, you know, I've worked in the subways a lot and we see a lot of that in the subways. So that's the question on a lot of people's minds is, are they going to go through with this? And, you know, what are the, you know, what are going to be the ramifications of this? And is it even legal to do it? So, Mary Ellen, you have your hand up?
Yeah, there's one thing I forgot to ask the captain that was coming up a lot on Facebook and a lot of pictures is people's wheels up on cinder blocks. It's happening much more and more frequently in the neighborhood. So I don't know what can be done, more patrol, because there's much more cars around here, especially like I'm on Netherland between 232 and 235, but I haven't I heard 236 had one there, or by Johnson, and they're showing much. I forgot exactly where the other ones were, but they're showing a lot more cars being ripped off of their tires. That's really scary. You come out to go to work and you're like, oops, I guess I'm not going today.
Lieutenant, any?
Yeah. No, like I mentioned earlier, and like the captain mentioned, the biggest driver of crime that we're having in the precinct right now is car thefts and thefts from cars, meaning like tires, rims, catalytic converters, sensors, or just stuff like anything attached to or inside of a car is our biggest driver of crime. I have to balance that specific crime against all of the other crimes that we're taking. So what I'm doing is on a staggered basis, I'm rotating how I'm deploying my specialized units to try and flood the areas where I know we're taking most of those crimes at in the precinct. They're mostly happening on the midnight tour. And obviously people are, you know, like you just said, you wake up in the morning and realize I'm not going to work now because my car doesn't have the tires attached. So I'm redeploying my public safety teams and my NCO teams. Again, not full time. I can't do that because I'm having, you know, I would be robbing Peter to pay Paul in terms of crime. But I am redeploying my teams on a staggered basis to the midnight hours to try and combat that. The main problem with it is where we're taking most of these crimes, it's a main corridor all along the highway. So it's very hard to catch them because these guys basically will steal something in under a minute or 2 minutes even, and they'll just jump right back on the highway. And before you're even finished calling 911, if you saw them doing it in person, before the 911 calls even relayed to us through 911, these guys are already gone. Like I said, my hope is that by putting enough unmarked cars and everything, plainclothes, we don't really have plainclothes, but basically unmarked cars and nondescript vehicles in the area, we can try and catch something and make a dent real time as it's happening.
You know, like a decoy car, put out a Honda that belongs to you guys.
No, Hondas definitely are the biggest
Yeah. if you could
driver of
stick
that.
out- Maybe you could
I
stick
know.
out a couple of Hondas in the neighborhood. and
We
just sit
tried
on 'em.
using a decoy car before when I first got to the precinct. We had less than desirable results. I really don't think it's the best tool in the world because I'm throwing a needle and a stack of needles and hoping someone grabs that specific Honda. But I have some other ideas I'm going to work on and stuff like that. And we'll try and see what we can do. But right now, my biggest tactic is I'm deploying my specialized units to those hours and we're taking most of those crimes.
Okay,
Thank you so
so
much. Merry Christmas.
last but not least, Nick, I found the email and I sent it to you. You want to give it one more shot?
Sure.
So I'm going to,
I'm gonna need to sign off, so
thank you, Bob.
no problem.
Thanks
Thanks.
for being here.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay, so Nick, I'm gonna make you co-host. Oh, you're already co-host.
There's an attachment here.
There is somewhere. Yeah, it's a video, it's a link to a website which has the video.
Okay, tell me when to stop.
I
Right.
think that's it right there, yeah. Greg, are you still here, Greg?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thanks for bearing with me with this. This was,
Yeah, that's definitely the website. If you scroll down that video just below you there, it's a Vimeo.
yep, there it is. And you're not gonna see anything for the first minute, literally.
Like I said, if you can control that, you can just skip to the 50-second mark. You'll save yourself a little time.
And just look at the rooms and how quickly
Yeah, so the first thing you'll see is if you look, the two cameras that are of most interest are the bottom left is the thermal camera, and then you go right to the bottom right. After the thermal part, you'll notice, then you'll see it on the video screen on the upper right.
Whoa.
And then it takes about 40 seconds for the full room involvement, floor to ceiling.
So that was pretty intense, and you see how quickly these things can get out of control. So I think that's something that seems like it's getting worse, and we're going to keep an eye on it. And I know there's some proposed legislation to even, I guess, well, the problem that I saw, that it's these lithium ion batteries are in a lot of things. They're in cell phones, they're in computers, but it's only the scooters and the e-bikes that are really being affected by it. And from what I understand, it's due to the wear and tear and the constant use and the constant recharging. That's why you're not seeing computers and iPhones and, stuff blow up. But
I have seen those as well. They just tend to be a little smaller, smaller device, smaller impact typically, and less common. But you're right. It's the wear and tear of the device makes those batteries vulnerable more vulnerable to the process.
Okay, so with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
You got one.
Chris, do we have a second? Do we have a second? I'll second it. Can I second it? I'll second it. All right.
I'll second it.
You can't second it. You're not part of the committee.
Right,
I
can't,
have one
can't
last
yet.
I have one last thing I want to say.
But I'll,
This is a
I'll,
twin.
I have one last thing I wanted to say. I applaud you for trying to get that video up.
oh, God.
I almost thought I was watching an Irwin Allen production. That was tremendous.
Yeah,
That's
The
something.
the other thing is, I wanted to wish everyone on this call, especially committee members, and Nick Fazio, everybody, season's greetings. Put it under that banner. And good meeting.
thanks, everybody. I second. the
One
meeting.
minute down.
The meeting is adjourned. Everybody have a blessed holiday, and Mary Ellen, I'll send an email. And if you're serious and you want to get on
No,
the.
I
committee,
definitely am.
You have my blessing. All right?
Oh, wow, thank you so much.
All right, so we'll.
Thank you.
we'll
You know
talk-
what? I have to thank you. This was such a nicely comfortable meeting that you run. I really felt part
Except,
of it.
except, except for my idiocy with the.
No,
with the
no, let me,
screen sharing.
nobody's perfect. It's progress, not perfection.
There you go. That's what my clinical director tells me, my boss.
Yep.
Anyway, everybody have a blessed holiday, and we'll meet, far as I know, third Tuesday of January 2023. So have a blessed holidays, everyone. Take care.
Good night.
Holiday.
Here.
No.
Bye, everybody. Have a nice holiday.